welcome to Business Sense. I'm Ralph Rivas. For today's episode, we have Microsoft Philippines Chief Operating Officer, Abid Zaidi. Abid, thanks so much for joining us on the show. Well, I see you're still working in the comforts of your home. How's how's working from home? Do you feel like you should get back to the office, or remote work is still doing you wonders?
No, first of all, thank you, Ralph, for having me. Yes, last 2 years I've been working from home, and initially, just like anyone else, faced some challenges, things not working, adjusting, readjusting. But 2 years is a long time, and a lot of people faced a lot of challenges. I've had to face some of my own, but just human beings are resilient, and we find ways, and we navigate through challenges. So I did the same. So now I feel much more confident working from home in terms of ensuring that my productivity is at the level which is expected from me, and at the same time, making it convenient, with technology, and with all the gadgets that we have access to. I think it has become much more convenient, I would say, to make sure that the contribution that we have to make, and the expectations that the organizations have from us, we can actually work from home and address all of those expectations, sitting from the comfort of our homes.
Yeah, I ask you that because the government is already encouraging people to go back to the offices, but people like me, for instance, I feel that I can be productive at home, not being in the office. I mean, we've done it for over 2 years already. So, is hybrid work inevitable? And is there a magic number like 70, 30%, 50, 50% for hybrid and office work?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand and realize that we are facing, or we're going through the greatest structural transformation in our economy in a generation. And when we talk about structural change, something which is at the very heart of that is hybrid work. That's the biggest change that we're experiencing since the adoption of 9 to 5 workday over a century ago. So uh, organizations, when we talk to our customers and different stakeholders, there's a realization that there has to be a new operating model that has to be reimagined. So as you mentioned and as you alluded to, hybrid work is inevitable. It is going to stay. People and employees and workers are expecting more flexibility from their employers. And therefore, Microsoft is also ensuring that we are working closely with our stakeholders, our customers, to ensure that there is a holistic transition, fully supported by technology. And when we look across, people, practices, business processes, all of those things need to be reimagined, and we know that technology has to play a critical role, and that critical role is basically striking a balance across innovation, resilience, and continuity. And the other important thing here is that productivity has to be looked at, in a much broader way. There has to be a certain level of inclusivity there, which means that it's not just the work itself that has to be focused on. There has to be better understanding of how people are collaborating now, their need to interact, how they're going to be interacting now, what is their preferred way of interacting. Similarly, with the post-pandemic world, in the new normal, what are the new skills that are needed to be learned? What are some of the skills that we need to unlearn? And at the same time, last but not least, well-being is extremely important. And there are certain surveys that we have access to, and we find out that a lot of people, especially here in the Philippines, if I remember correctly, about 67% of the workers, especially people who are used to hybrid ways of doing their work, they are expecting more resilience, they expect more flexibility. Why? Because they are preferring healthcare, their health and well-being over work. And therefore it's important for leaders of different organizations and all the different employers to actually think about what is it that the employees need. And this requires them to first listen to them, then understand what those expectations are, and then accordingly see what has to be done on the remote side of the work, which is work from home, what kind of technologies need to go there, and at the same time how the physical workspaces need to be readjusted to ensure that there is there is fairness in terms of how we are treating our employees, people who are coming to work and people who are working from home, how they still feel included no matter where they're working from.
Yeah, actually, I can see that already. That this issue on hybrid work is already a there's friction already among workers and employers. In the in the West, for instance, there's a phenomenon called the so-called the Great Resignation, right? But I don't see that in the Philippines yet. But how do you? I mean, how should employers approach that issue?
Yeah, I think, first of all, employers like Microsoft, I can talk about Microsoft. We are trying to understand, what people really want in terms of, what is it that they need to stay productive? What is it that they are preferring now in a post-pandemic world? And therefore, um, it's important for us to understand and realize that there are new expectations, and that would require a new operating model, as I alluded to earlier. So if we don't take a timely action, then we would also see some people kind of shifting to those other um, employers who are creating more flexibility. So as I mentioned, 67 or 69% of the employees here in the Philippines are saying that they are prioritizing their health and well-being over work. And therefore, organizations need to think hard how they are creating that conducive environment for their employees. For example, some people are okay with not commuting because, just spending time on the road just takes away a lot in terms of that much time they can spend with their family or friends. So I mean, in the last 2 years people have realized that there are benefits of working from home, and therefore even if they have access to a physical office, they would want to strike a balance between, okay, what is it that I should be doing, working from the comfort of my home, and what is it that I should be going to the office for. So the leaders need to maybe have some kind of team agreement, which should kind of clearly state that what are the benefits of coming to the office. So uh, one has to realize that it's not about coming to the office, physical office, or having an in-person meeting just for the sake of it, just because we think that if we do that, we'll consider ourselves in normal times, just like the pre-pandemic times we used to. So again, I think one has to realize that there is a need for us to adopt to the new normal. And this is where the new operating model comes in. And that operating model is built on the expectation from the employees. And the great shuffle or the great resignation that you talked about, that is a result of employers not fully understanding the expectations of the employees. 2 years is a long time, and therefore, sometimes you build those habits, and then you're ready to actually, tell your employer and be vocal about what you need to be productive, what you expect from the employer in terms of helping you prioritize your well-being and your health.
Mm. Now, any particular tasks or that we thought were impossible to do remotely? Can you cite examples or uh, any companies or sectors that Microsoft helped to transition into remote work?
Yeah, for example, there are many examples. We have been working with almost all sectors, be it financial sector or BPOs or um, manufacturing, retail. I want to give you some examples. For example, BPO here in the Philippines is a big industry, And therefore, we started working with BPOs. Initially, when you look at the BPOs themselves, their business model is based on providing timely services to their customers. And if and there is a lot of supervision involved there. So when pandemic happened and people uh, were supposed to work from home, BPOs faced a lot of difficulty because the agents were simply not able to access applications. So, for example, we work with Inspiro, which is one of the BPOs, and they use Microsoft Windows Virtual Desktop solution to ensure accessibility to the applications that the agents were using to do their tasks. And there were about 3,000 of those agents who eventually got adjusted. We also saw the likes of Everrise, which is another BPO, and they wanted a hybrid setup. Some of the agents were supposed to work from home, and the others were asked to come to the office, depending upon the capacity, which was allowed by the government according to the alert levels. And they had to bring in the right set of technologies, but then they had to also ensure that there's right amount of security surrounding those applications also, because when you're working from home, the cyber security and cyber resilience and all these factors have to start considering, which has to be very much part of the equation, not just the set of productivity suite that you're providing to the employees, but also how you're ensuring that that access that you're creating for employees who are working from home is also secure. There are also examples of us are working with the public sector. For example, Supreme Court, the judiciary last year institutionalized video conferencing based hearings, and there was a time when no physical court hearing was happening. And when they found out that on Microsoft Teams they could run virtual hearings, they institutionalized video conferencing hearings, and as a result of that, it created a huge societal impact. They were able to release, I think the last number that I remember is like over 200,000 PDLs, personnel deprived of liberty. And the decisions were taken by those courts by doing and running those virtual hearings. In the education space, again, huge impact. We worked with the students by providing them with digital tools. We worked with the teachers, about 950,000 of those teachers, and helped them with hybrid learning and hybrid teaching arrangements. So a huge impact was created with the use of technology, but then something that was underpinning all of that use of technology was the realization that what is that outcome that we want, what is that impact that we need to continue to create, because there are expectations from our customers, there are expectations from different stakeholders, and therefore a lot of organizations Microsoft worked with to ensure that they were continuing their services, they are continuing to provide that the services or anything which was being expected by their customers.
Hmm. Now you mentioned schools. Now, Abid, I have a teenage brother who's really struggling in school right now. I mean, I think it has something to do with the remote setup. So, how do you encourage teachers and students to stay motivated? I mean, with the remote setup, it's so hard. I mean, me personally, I find it really draining just looking at screens for hours. So with with this setup not going away soon, with the virus still there, how do we deal with this?
I think we are in, I would say, better times now. I think with the economy opening up to physical arrangements. Same goes for schools. I think schools are also reopening, obviously with certain set of protocols that we still have to follow. We still have to take the right precautions. There was definitely a time when we were just trapped in, within the four walls of our houses. But now I think things are getting better, and this is the reason why there's a term called hybrid, which is now you have an option to go to your school, to go to your office, but then now you're finding some benefits of working from home, and then you are also finding some benefits of working from your office. So you have to kind of decide where you are most productive. Now, coming to the question that you asked, yes, for children, physical activity, physical interaction in terms of how their personalities are being developed, I think that's crucial. It's part of their learning journey. And I would say, things are getting better, and I think a lot of schools are opening up. Maybe not 100%, but there are days in a week when they're allowed to come to the school, and they're then able to interact with their classmates. So it's a good news now. I think things are getting better.
That's of yeah, I see that as well. Hopefully, cases continue to go down. But what about startups? I mean, there's a boom of startups now amid the pandemic. But with the economy reopening, how's that going to impact the the boom in tech, particularly fintech and startups in general?
Yes, I think even during the pandemic, the venture deal activity, which is like the investment that is coming in support of those startups, did not slow down, neither in 2020 nor in 2021. And as of early November 2021, there was about close to about $1 billion that got invested in the Philippine startup ecosystem, which was and which was actually more than the 5-year tally of $1.7 billion. Now we know that a lot of that investment went into telco-backed fintechs, namely Gcash and PayMaya, but still, there were so many other fintechs which were being supported with those investments. So I think with the pandemic came the realization that there are different groups of people, there are niche areas where these startups can operate in terms of bringing the right set of innovations, in terms of enabling new services, in terms of even disrupting and transforming industries where they're operating in. So I think the outlook for the future is bright. It's positive. As per the leading VC Gobi Core, they expect the funds raised in the Philippines to touch $2 billion in the next 3 years, which is going to be more than the total amount raised in the last 5 years. And what we are also seeing is that, and it's a global phenomena, that the global broadband traffic has been increasing. The same goes for the Philippines. Asia in itself is a hub for that transformation. The startups are thriving here, and we are again seeing the same trend here in the Philippines. Just to give you also a view of where does the startup ecosystem stand here in the Philippines. It's valued at about $500 million now. When you look at the Series A fund, it is actually more than the global average, standing at about 5 million. And then when you look at the seed round, it is comparable to the global average, standing at $217,000. And then we are also seeing that there's a good amount of support being provided by the government, the likes of DICT and DTI and DOST, in terms of creating the right policy framework and environment. For example, Philippine Innovation Act, or Innovative Startup Act, and then making available venture funds and grant funds to those startups. So I think the right amount of resources and investment are going in. We can do much more to accelerate, because there is a huge scope when it comes to the areas of fintech and retail, healthcare, and education. But I would say, if you ask me, I think we are going in the right direction, and we are also seeing good amount of acceleration. Also, caused part of it is caused by the pandemic.
Now, which sectors are showing more potential than others, and what is Microsoft doing to help these local startups and ride this wave of the startups boom?
Yes, I think fintech clearly, because I think there was, in fact, a survey that was done. I'm forgetting the source of it, but I just actually even read today that in the Philippines, generally the population is more open towards financial transactions that are done digitally, and this is the reason why we are seeing the rising volume as far as the financial transactions, digital financial transactions are concerned. And then related to it, these industries are kind of intertwined. So fintech, e-commerce, so you have the need to purchase something. You have the e-commerce platform. You go there, you pick your product, you have to pay. So you are using likes of Gcash or any other means to pay digitally. And then there's logistics, because those goods need to be the courier to you or shipped to you. So I would say fintech, e-commerce, logistics, and healthcare are the four industries that are seeing great amount of attention. And we are also seeing that investment is also going into these four areas. There are different startups that are operating in these areas, and they are attracting decent amount of investment.
Hmm. Now, uh, to wrap up this show, your thoughts, your outlook on the economy, prospects, and I don't know, possible threats that we need to still look out for.
Right. I think there's this part of your question I missed earlier in terms of what Microsoft is doing in this space. Just last March, we announced Founders Hub, and this is basically a platform for startup founders. It's a one-stop shop from where you can go get your tech tools. You can have credits for different products that you want to build and create. You can get technical and business mentorship. So it's a one-stop shop from where you can get all the resources. So it's our effort to combine all of these resources in one platform, so that founders don't have to run in 10 different directions to get what they want. Because there's one thing which startups don't have. That's the time, because the teams are small, and therefore Founders Hub is our answer to all those needs and requirements coming from the founders of those startups. And here in the Philippines, we have made the announcement, and we are working towards actually, bring awareness so that startups know that there is a resource like Founders Hub available to them. And in the next coming months, we are going to ensure that we are bringing more and more startups on the platform, because the benefits, and if I have to quantify them in terms of dollars, they are over $300,000 worth of benefits available through that portal, which is Founders Hub. In terms of economy, I think we have the forecast from the World Banks and ADBs of the world, and the economy is bouncing back. I think what is extremely important, I think this is where Microsoft is playing its role, is to ensure that the economic recovery is inclusive. Nobody is left behind, and this is the reason why I think not just kind of addressing the challenges of today, but ensuring that the future is also made foolproof. And how do we make it foolproof? Microsoft is running different skilling programs. Our global skilling initiative through LinkedIn and GitHub and MS Learn is something that we are making available to our customers and government organizations. And as part of our thrust, which we call Parasabayan, we are ensuring that apart from what we're doing on the technology front, we are also complementing it with the right level of skills to actually close that digital skills gap. So I think we are all set to really accelerate the pace of growth here in the Philippines. When we look at the startup ecosystem, when we look at how the industries are transforming, there is a light that we see at the end of the tunnel. And I think if we continue to evolve, if we continue to kind of listen to the employees and workers what they want from the hybrid setup point of view, and also in terms of what is needed to ensure that the things that they're prioritizing, like health and well-being, if that is taken care of, we will have a steady, stable growth in the months and years to come.
Yeah, it's really good to hear that you're supporting local startups in in growing them, and it's good. I really hope that the cases keep on declining and we can fully reopen. the economy, for more jobs, and more exciting news on the startup industry. And on that note, thanks so much, Microsoft Philippines COO Abid Zaidi. And I'm Ralph Rivas. This has been another episode of Business Sense. Thanks for watching.